You're all set, John.
Good. Well, welcome everyone. This is the September 17th meeting of the Intermunicipal Task Force. I sent out an agenda, sent that out on the 16th on Monday. And let me ask, are there any people who want to comment on the status of the briefing papers that they're preparing? I mean, we know Martha has submitted 3. That's kind of the record, I think. I was wondering if anybody else has any updates on their briefing paper. I'll start. Uh, I think it's, let me just check one second before I get this wrong, which gives you some idea. Greg, it's you and I who are looking at fixed base operations. I've been reading the previous master plan to see what the comments are, but I haven't gotten any further than that.
I haven't gotten much further either, so I'll
All
blame
right.
the dog for eating my homework.
All right, so we're gonna have
We have to do some work.
exactly, we're gonna have to get to work on that. Hi, Rich.
Hi there. Sorry I'm late. Nice to see you all.
How about other people? Let me see. Michelle, I know you did a little survey when you were up at the airport meeting of the terminal conditions and terminal accommodations. Anything to report? You're on mute. Right, you're on mute, Michelle.
Michelle, if you press the space bar, you'll temporarily come off mute.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm on my phone doing the Zoom, so it's a little
Okay.
more challenging. So I did tour around the facility after our formal tour. And you know, I'm not an architect. I wish I was, and I would be able to come up with a great, you know, architectural plan. What I have been working on has become sort of like an outline so far of different areas where I think we could work on with the current footprint of Westchester County Airport. And I just want to make sure, you know, going along the right lines that everyone expects. So like one of the areas that I worked on already was the ambiance of the airport, things that could be done, you know, with the existing footprint, such as natural lighting, open spaces, bringing in plants, water features, artwork we had seen up on the 3rd floor, but you know, it's not really being enjoyed and shared with others, you know, the main travelers. So I just want to make sure, you know, I'm going along the right lines since I'm not an architect, you know, working on this.
Well, it sounds to me as if you are, because I think one of the things we have to recognize is that some of these topics lend themselves as, you know, air pollution or water pollution to kind of a more specific analysis. Others, as in the passenger experience in the terminal, kind of lend themselves to what does the citizenry want, right? What do the people who, so I think you're on the right track, but others, if others have a view on the matter, speak up, please.
I mean, I have a lot more, you know, done in terms of, you know, services that are needed, nursing stations for mothers, quiet zone, pet relief area, you know, possibly a small area to de-stress, you know, none of the things that are existing currently.
But they would have the space to do it.
Well, I think if there was some redesign, I mean, these are of course suggestions.
Right.
So, you know, when we walked around, we saw that um, there was a lot of space upstairs that might not be used to its fullest capabilities.
Yeah, that struck me as something that was totally underutilized. And if there's a way of configuring that 3rd floor space that would allow for passengers that have already passed the TSA screening checkpoint. It would open up a lot of seating, I thought.
Yeah. The third floor, though, is not past the checkpoint, right?
Well, it
Well-
would be if you added an elevator, say, in the seating
Right.
area that went up to
I
that
see,
area.
I see,
So
okay,
there is a, a way to solve that problem.
okay. But I think those kinds of suggestions sound pretty good to me, Michelle. I mean, I think that you might proceed along that vein.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think the things you've listed are all amenities that you find in other airports that we all travel to, right? That we've observed being put, another question is, whether Westchester's small size can accommodate all of them. But I think it's worth mentioning these are now amenities that represent sort of the current state of the art at other airport facilities. And then let the powers that be decide which ones can fit into the space, but I think you've listed some good ones.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Let me get to my list here a second. Okay, we've seen,
John, while you're getting organized there for a second, Michelle, I think everything you said was spot on. But I think it's a calculus equation in as much as, or actually I should say the analogy would be Field of Dreams. You want to be careful not to build it so they come, but we want to make it as good as possible without making it LaGuardia North. So
Of course.
I don't want to.
And this is all, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is all within the current footprint is what I'm trying to emphasize. You know, certainly there's other things that I'm going to talk about as well. The curbside drop-off experience, the ticketing, there's other parts of it as well.
good.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to be negative at all. I think you're spot on, and I think the approach the task force is taking will achieve that goal of making it better without making it larger.
Yeah, because I think, we have to always keep in mind that you won't get the unanimity among these municipalities with any suggestion that makes the footprint of the terminal building larger, I think. I mean, I think there's too much opposition to that.
Of course, yeah.
You can
Agreed.
build up probably. Okay. Traffic on King Street, Rich, any progress there?
I wish I could say there was more progress. I found myself responsible for traffic and noise. Michael Pollock was good enough to assist me in navigating some of the noise stats, and I'll reach out to him on that. In terms of traffic, I've been doing a lot of reaching out to a lot of folks that could provide me with some history. I know the Port Chester representation on the committee expressed concerns about King Street.
Right.
I can reach out to them and get some input from them. I can speak specifically regarding my own traffic concerns and my community's traffic concerns, and it's not necessarily King Street, but it's south, or rather north of King Street. I'm meeting with, or not meeting, but I have a call with April next week to discuss traffic and to get as much information from her regarding traffic in the surrounding areas and what mitigation they've considered or have taken thus far. But also want to bring to their attention technology and how it's impacted traffic going to and from the airport and a lot of the local side streets. I'm not sure that that's on their radar, and it's not an issue that the airport has created necessarily. It's just an effect of technology and traffic navigation apps. I would like to ask for some assistance. These are two major components, I believe. I sent an email out asking for some backup. So, currently my paternity leave is ending. I return to the office next week. Bandwidth is an issue, so any assistance would be greatly appreciated. If someone has the time to join forces with me, I would be grateful. I haven't made as much progress as I'd like to thus far, but I am looking forward to speaking with April next week about traffic and understanding that better.
Well, Rich, I thought I'd work with you on the noise issue. I thought I'd continue to work with you on that.
Super. And I owe you a call, Michael, about the link that you sent me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
So I'll follow up with the Portchester reps on the committee to see if there's continued interest in assisting moving the.
yeah, it was Juliana who had volunteered to work with you on traffic.
Yeah,
And we have to make sure we can fit the traffic issue. I'm not sure it fits exactly into a commentary about the master plan, but it may nonetheless fit into the interests of the various people on the call. So we have to see how we're going to handle that once we better identify and the issue.
Well, the offsite parking at Purchase College certainly enters into it, right? Would reduce the number of trips actually to the airport. I was just on a bike ride over there the other day and realized how many cars do park there.
Yeah.
And that reduces the number of cars at the airport, obviously, because then you have a van taking people to and from Purchase. So, that kind of thing, offsite parking options, if we are for or against them, I think this is that's a good place in the document to talk about that.
Good
Yeah,
idea.
and I got an update on the status of the proposed parking garage on New King Street. So that garage has been approved by all the authorities, as I understand it. And the developer has been waiting for the new water line to be installed, because otherwise, without access to the public water, they'd have to install like a 500,000-gallon tank. So that's obviously a costly item for them. So that project, it seems, is on track to move forward once that water line is completed.
What's the capacity of that garage, do you know?
I think it's about 350
Michael, what street
off
is
the
that
top of my
going to be
head.
on?
It's
Sorry?
on New King?
Which street?
New King Street. I think it's I want to say 111.
Okay.
Been a while since I looked at it. We approved it a while back, and they were waiting on some county approvals, but I understand they have them now.
Right. Okay. Anyone else want to comment on any of the others? I think we've covered them pretty much, but
John, I just want to chime in for a second. I just want to make sure that, because I sent it on Saturday, I had to come into the office, so I decided to do, because I did get a follow-up from April, and Martha, you sent me some unanswered questions. Did everybody have a chance to see that?
yeah,
That was very helpful.
yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, and I also had a phone call myself with April about some other initiatives that the airport is doing, but I can talk about that later. That may be of interest to you guys.
Okay, good. Well, I think this kind of, I'll skip over a bit. Well, we'll skip right to the next point, actually. I mean, I think one of the takeaways, those of us who went to the meeting with the airport staff came away with, was that they seem to be open to talking about these issues before we finalize our briefing papers. So, and I know, Martha, you've reached out. And I guess, Rich, you've spoken to April as well. So I think that's probably a good idea to kind of test what we're thinking on a particular issue. You have to go with what you think the municipalities want to advocate, but I think we should have an open dialogue with the airport staff, assuming they're willing to do so. And then that'd make the whole process a little better and smoother.
But Jen, they definitely are willing to do so. I've spoken to April about this. I mentioned that to her several times. The more communicative you are with her, the better response you're going to get. So
Good.
that is
Yeah,
definitely
I
something.
found them to be very responsive and willing to make themselves available and answer questions. It was very nice, refreshing.
But
Right.
I told her too. I want this to be a transparent process between us because as we discussed, we didn't want this to come across as like a NIMBY group upset about certain things at the airport. I said if we collaborate effectively, we give them professional courtesy. You get that in return. You get what you get.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, if only there were more of you, Greg.
Actually,
In
I
public
try my best.
service, we need so many more of you with that spirit. That's
Uh,
great.
Again, you learn from Chris though too. Chris and I are very alike in that matter.
Because
That's great.
I think in the fixed base operations, which Greg and I are working on, I think that's definitely a topic we could use some help on once we develop some thoughts of our own about the situation. So maybe we should touch base, in a week or so, if that's okay with you, Greg.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Okay, so, all right, we're moving right along here. Now,
No, can I just ask
Go
John
ahead.
before you go ahead? So Greg, how would you suggest that we, I don't want April to get, a million phone calls from us every week on these as we move forward. Would it be at some point we just send her a bunch of these briefing papers for her to review and ask for comments, or do we do them a couple at a time? How do you suggest that we best, coordinate that?
Sure. So I'll brainstorm more thoroughly with Chris in terms of that though too. But for what I would say now is that I can happy be the point person in terms of just so she doesn't have like 5 of us calling her at once. Just so again, because I've established that kind of rapport with her, and I told her that I may reach out to her in the future about certain these matters. But when we get these briefing papers, I mean, I'll communicate more that with Chris in terms of how exactly you want to go about that. But I definitely would send them to her as well, just so she can have her at least her opportunity to review it and provide some of her own comments.
Right. I appreciate you being the point person on that. I think it is best to go through one person.
Correct, and that's how I
Um,
feel about too. Because I'm
Okay.
again, April's great, but I just think from a human nature, I don't think anyone would want from a committee 5, 6 different people reaching out to them about different topics.
Right.
Can I play devil's advocate here and wonder, I'm wondering why we're showing April our papers when our client is the county and
Yeah.
legislators and they're really the employees. It's sort of, they're on different sides of the decision making and I
Everyone's going to get
question
it.
the process.
Right. I guess
everyone-
I just thought, after our meeting with April, that she is very knowledgeable about a wide range of the topics we're trying to address. And if we are off base or missing information in any of our white papers, she would be able to tell us or direct us to, better resources. That's not to say that we're going to make changes to those papers based on her feedback, but and I think Michael said, if there's something factually wrong in there, or we are off base significantly in some topic, it would be good to know it before it goes to the towns, right?
Yeah,
Before
I
it goes to
think
the
that's right.
communities. So, and I do think she would be, as opposed to sending it to some county legislator who's going to have legislator is going to have a particular axe to grind or knowledge in just a particular area. I think the people in operations at the airport are the best people to review our white papers at this stage and tell us factually if we've got it right or not.
Well, okay, let me flip that around a little bit. So if she says this fact is not right, the real fact is this, that may be something we can check. On the other hand, if we say, for instance, retention basin C ought to be built, and she says, oh, no, that's not necessary, you can delete that. I don't feel that we should. I mean, we
Well,
have to
right.
make our own judgment on some of these issues and not rely on the staff, which it's in their interest to do less rather than more.
Right. I agree 100%. We're going to take their feedback with a grain of salt. We're going to use our own brains to figure out what feedback is that we think is actually useful to us or to our cause, right? And I think we're pretty going to be good at deciphering what feedback we get from them is self-serving to them, right? And we may ignore some of their feedback.
Well,
But
in that
if
case,
there's
then-
something, if I'm factually wrong about something, I'd rather know now and have it corrected. So,
Okay, so in that case, then we should not submit the recommendations, just submit the rest of the paper.
I don't mind submitting the recommendations and just having a free and open exchange, and with they have to understand that we may go ahead and submit those recommendations. We're not going to even be changing these documents based on their say so. These are our documents, but we would appreciate any information they can provide to correct any misunderstandings or factual inaccuracies.
Yeah, I don't view them as adversarial. I think April is very cooperative. And I think on a number of topics, there are activities that the airport and the county, may already be pursuing, that we may not be aware of, such as, capturing runoff or capturing, de-icing fluids where there's a consent decree in effect. And, the county is already engaging in, very involved activities. So it would be helpful to have their perspective and the information that they could share that goes into forming these recommendations. We're all adults and we're capable of evaluating the advice that we get from staff and accepting or rejecting it, and that's our prerogative. So I don't think we need to edit ourselves or view them as adversarial.
And I'll also just continue to chime in, except that April and her team are aware that and again, we may not see eye to eye in every recommendation or every thing that comes out of the white paper. And quite frankly, the elected officials may not necessarily agree on every recommendation you guys give, and that's okay. But again, we have the ability of the knowledge that they have, which again, as Martha said, the elected officials, most of them are not. And it's no fault of their own. It's just that most of them don't have the background of the airport. And as going back to the other thing I said before is that, again, if you have an open exchange, again, you're more likely to get, again, a better collaborative response in the future. Again, April and her team are not adversarial. Are we going to agree on everything? There's a potential for no. And like I said, that's totally okay.
Right. One of the issues I think we have to be concerned about is that we don't want to put April in a position where she feels because she endorses, let's say, or finds no fault with the analysis, that she endorses the conclusions. I think that would put her in an awkward position relative to her.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that April and the airport staff is wise enough, and I've seen them do this in other contexts, where they stay out of endorsing positions because that becomes dangerous for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
know,
work
to-
for the county as well. So they go, well, April's now is a county employee, but as Michael, as you said though too, I think that they're very wise and they provide the proper perspective when they have to. But
No, Greg, I think to your earlier point about transparency being beneficial for us, I think at the very least, it puts April and her team in a position of not being surprised by anything that comes out of this. So that even if she disagrees with any decision we make, any position we take, she will be in a position to say, yes, I'm aware of that. They're close with me, we're working together. And she, at the very least, will be impartial and possibly be an ally for us. I'm not sure I see any downside to including her, although Nick, I do understand your point. It's well taken, but I think the upside is probably transparency helps us.
Yeah, I was thinking that the same thing, and along the lines of what Michael said, if we're proposing a possible solution that they've already tried to implement and it didn't work, they would be able to explain to us why it didn't work and offer us some background, and maybe we can rethink what it is we're proposing in some instances. So that was my thinking in terms of how useful it may be.
Yeah,
Sorry, John. Yeah, when I had
was just gonna say, we don't wanna
April a
put-
while ago, I had mentioned to her that when I had gotten my license at the airport, they stressed to me, be a good neighbor, don't ruin this thing for us. And I said to her, I'm hoping you still feel that way. We want you to be our good neighbor as well. And my impression is she does. So I think, again, what we're doing and sharing with her probably has very little downside.
Yeah, I guess my only concern was that don't put her in a position where somebody could say, some superior of hers could say, did you endorse these conclusions? We don't want her, put her there at all.
I agree.
Okay, did we lose Martha?
It appears
She's on
so.
a cell phone issue, maybe?
Okay. Now, the other thing that came up, which is why I asked about what the terms of your appointment were, is this question of what is the role, if any, of the task force once the municipalities approve the proposed resolutions?
I'll start the discussion. I think it's for us to be involved with things going forward by getting together and tackling a few easy things in the beginning. If this you want to consider this one easy, we get a seat at the table. And what is it going to be down the road? Well, I think certainly noise and pollution are at the top of the list, but we don't know what we don't know yet. So I think it gets us a seat at the table, and we'll define what we can get involved in.
Well,
And
that's the classic issue. So noise and pollution are not at the top of our table. Water is. So,
right.
every municipality is a little different. And that's why we're doing this all together to form a more united front.
Yeah.
Good point.
You see, that's one of the things, I see. There is this diversity of, to an extent, to a great extent, we're trying to create a resolution that both for each issue, that both has meat, but also is going to be acceptable to each of the municipalities. And if one municipality has a problem with an issue, and the people who worked on that issue are not resident in that municipality, that I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But I mean, the question really is the terms of the Rybrook appointment. It's a little ambiguous when the appointment, what time period the appointment covers. That's why I asked everyone to look at the terms of your appointment in the if your town passed a formal resolution. Well, we're not at that point yet, but this is an issue I think we have to be concerned about and think about. Because it's going to come up, because I'm sure there'll be some issues that there'll be some pressure by at least some municipalities to continue to discuss with the county, and they may want the people who worked on that issue involved in that discussion. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, John, that's something I'll talk about with Chris, because I'll be honest with you myself, I really don't have like a clear or good answer for that right now in terms of once everything's submitted. So that's definitely something I will like touch base with Chris in terms of what ideas he has.
Right, but it also has to fit with the terms of the appointment for the people on this call, right? That's the other, that's why I was wondering if you had the resolutions appointing you to the task force. Just you should check. I don't need to see them, but you should check what the scope of your appointment is. In the case of the Rybrook one, I'd say it's ambiguous.
Yeah, I don't know, Rich, if you've had a chance to discuss this with Fred, but my impression was this is open-ended and we're here as long as you want us here.
Yeah, that was my impression.
Okay. Well, if everyone else could just check that, that'd be good, because we don't want to march forward if that's going to be a problem later on. Okay, so we have moved right along here. Any other business that people want to bring up? No. Okay, so now the other thing I thought we talked about last time is now Martha has sent out on August 31st, that was the latest. It was a paper on air pollution issues. I think it would be useful for everyone to kind of read these briefing papers as they come in. And if you have any comments for Martha, to just get back to her. I did that a little tardy, I suppose, today. And I focused really on some of the conclusions. So if other people, if you have, especially if you have any knowledge about the issue, if you could get back to her, that would be, I think, good. And I speak for myself. I would appreciate that feedback once we produce the FOB, the FBO work. I mean, there are people on the committee like Michael and Peter Slaktis who have a tremendous amount of knowledge about airport issues, and we should try to bring that to the fore when we can. What do people think about having the briefing papers in draft circulate to the other members of the committee task force for comment? Well, people look very reserved about that idea.
I see no reason why we shouldn't.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it would be helpful to both the authors and to the others in the group. Okay, well, we'll do it and we'll see how many people we get to comment on various things. Okay, well, that takes us down to, it's going faster than I thought. Any other business that people want to bring up or discuss? No.
No.
Okay, well, we should schedule though the next meeting, because by the time the next meeting comes, we will have, I think, a couple of these briefing papers well underway. And several of us will have had conversations with the staff, both of the county and the airport, about the issue. So I think if we're going to meet the end of October deadline, which may be a bit aspirational, to get these briefing papers in a final form, we have to get moving on that. Now, Michael, do you have any update on the status of the master plan effort by the county?
No, I don't.
We're still a bit in the dark when this might happen.
Yeah. Well, I think the millionaire settlement is moving forward, and it seems they're closer to resolution of those issues. And my understanding is that was one of the obstacles to the county circulating a master plan. So if the millionaire litigation is close to resolution, then perhaps the draft of the master plan won't be far behind. We do have an airport advisory meeting tomorrow, and I often get asked what, if anything, the task force is up to. And I think, what I'll respond is that we formed subcommittees on the variety of issues that we've discussed, and we are, drafting position papers that we hope to share with airport staff for their input, not for them to endorse, but for them to either, review or correct or update information upon which we're basing our recommendations, and that we have created a timeline for that process. Does anyone see any objection to me responding in that fashion?
No?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so that's good. So I don't want to close before we set a date for the next meeting, but I also.
John, I just have a couple things I just would like to go through.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
I did mention this, I had chat with April about a few programs that's, Michael, you may be aware of this with your work in the airport, but just for the other members who are, particularly since one of the topics is, again, I think the passenger experience or everything. So this may kind of relate towards that, because that's one of the things that her and I talked about. So don't know if you guys are aware of, it's called the Hidden Disability Sunflower Program that the airport rolled out about under a couple years ago. So basically, kind of interesting. So you wear like a kind of a lanyard, it's a moniker for the airport staff to know that you have like a hidden disability. You don't basically have to say like what it is. So that way the airport staff are able to train and recognize it. That when you have
April
that,
described it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Mention, okay.
And
Make
it
sure
was
you-
in my notes from that meeting.
Okay, good. And did she just want to make sure she told me just to check for those who weren't there? And for those meeting
Well,
the
that would be important for Michelle. Michelle, do you know about that? Were you there for the whole meeting?
I don't think she was there for that part of it, but I did include it. I knew that she needed that, so I made sure it was in the notes that I sent to everyone.
Okay, perfect. I just didn't remember. And then the
Okay.
So
autism.
I actually, I was there for that part of it. I
Okay.
was, yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Thank
Moving
you.
on then. You
I think
guys,
there are 3 or 4 other programs as well that I listed there. Yep.
you listed again, you want to make sure everyone read the autism double check one.
Yep.
Perfect. And then the freedom to fly. 'Cause I know, I'm sure she mentioned
Yes.
that. I remember that one.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. So that was that. I just wanted to, she asked
I
me
was
to
taking furious notes.
perfect. No, she just asked me to
Thank
double
you.
relay it.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to, I can tell her I did that.
Okay.
So the other thing is I just want to, again, just show you guys a quick refresher of the website. I know you guys are aware of the link, but just you don't know if you guys have seen it recently, just so you can see some of the additions that have been made to it. I'm just pulling it up on my computer real quick.
This is the Rybrook website?
Yes. It's the link that I created with the IT person
Right.
for the task force. It's just being a little slow at the moment. So just please just bear with me. Just gonna share my screen real quick. All right, can you guys see my screen? My screen?
Mm-hmm.
Right, perfect. So I'm gonna scroll down. So again, the terminal use and TUA have their own section. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of the fact that again, all the resolutions that have thus far are uploaded. They're in no particular order. Again, I tried to organize it, but again, the Proud City, but basically what we used to change the website, it did however it wanted. But they're all up there. And then what I also put up there is the TUA recommendations, which are right here. So just as a reference for anyone, for you guys, as well as anyone who's going to be looking at this in the future.
Okay.
And then for the master plan, for some reason, the link is not working right now. I don't know why. And I'm trying to speak with my IT person about this, but Peter Shalaka sent this to me. So the current master plan, just all the information here about the current process is in this link. And for some reason, it's offline, but once it gets back up and running, it's just another link that will be available on this site for, again, you guys or anyone else who's going to be looking at this to see, so they can get more information.
Yeah, and Peter sent me, and then I forwarded to everyone, the 2 links, one for the master plan itself and one for commentary on the master plan. Those links, I happened to look at it today. Those links are working.
Okay. Yeah, there's just that one where it's /. I tried. It keeps saying it's offline. I don't know what's going on with it.
Okay. So shall we try to set a time for October?
Or we could do the doodle poll option again. That's always
True. Now,
It makes more work for you, Greg, if we could
the
all.
doodle poll takes like a minute just to honestly that oftentimes is easier because then we just go back and forth of what dates. And again, with 14 people, it's almost impossible to get a date that's gonna maybe.
Well, at least we can narrow it down. Last time, this group narrowed it down to 2 or 3, and then
Yeah,
you
so-
send out the doodle
Well,
poll for,
because
those 3 dates. So if we can narrow it down to 3 dates, that helps you, doesn't it?
Well,
Yes, so
today is
that
the,
would be helpful.
today is the 3rd Tuesday of the month. And what I find useful with other boards is if you get into a pattern where you say, okay, we're going to meet on the 3rd Tuesday, and obviously it doesn't have to be the 3rd Tuesday. I'm just picking that because today happens to be the 3rd Tuesday. But to have a convention that we follow, it makes it a little bit easier to plan if that idea has any merit to anyone else.
Yeah.
It works
If it
for me.
works. So that would be the 15th
Mhm.
of October. Is that anyone's planning
Oh.
commission meeting or?
No,
Good.
Wait, is that true? Yeah. Okay, I have to say, I can't make it the 15th. That's the day I get back from Europe.
Oh,
Me as
that's a good
well.
excuse.
Perfect, actually.
second Tuesday?
I'm in Europe.
that's what you-
You guys may have to go ahead without me.
Well, that we
I
would
can
get
do it
there
the
first.
next Tuesday, the
How about
22nd.
the 22nd?
Yeah, I can do that.
I cannot,
That's a
Um,
RIDE
That's your-
planning
that's
commission
your
meeting?
planning, right?
yeah.
or how about this? Maybe can we start with a week? Would that be easier? We at least start there? And then we can narrow it down from the week,
The week of the 21st then?
or any week, but just I think it's a good place to start.
Okay, why don't you start the week of the 21st? I mean, does anybody have a problem with any of the days that week other than Nick? Because that rules out.
I'm only out Friday, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're all good.
Let's avoid Fridays.
Yeah, I totally agree with that in
And
principle.
the third Wednesdays are when we have our airport board meetings, so. the
Well, that'd be
Wed-
the 16th, so we'd avoid that in the week of the 21st.
Got it. Yep, you are correct.
All right. So then, unless I hear no objections, then I'm going to set a doodle poll for the 21st to the 24th.
Good.
Okay, good
Sounds
plan.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. As I say, Martha, you sent out the air pollution paper. And you sent out two others. I will read the other two and get back to you with any comments, but to the extent that, and one was on water pollution and one was stormwater and one was groundwater, as I recall.
Right, stormwater,
Mhm.
groundwater.
I've
Uh-huh.
read, them, but I got a comment now. So if other people want to comment as well, please do so. I mean, I think we have to recognize that there are diverse views and different opinions and whatnot. So I think everybody has to be open to comments from the other members of the task force. I mean, Martha has been, she set a good example. I hope I'll set a good example when my time comes, but I hope,
Yeah, I'm just, I was trying to create a straw man for everyone else to pull apart if needed, and also just by doing those three, have everyone react and decide if that's the format we want for the rest of these going forward. I continue to refine them. I thought John, your suggestion, I think it was your suggestion to
I
have
have
a paragraph relating it back to the master plan, whether the information we're providing or recommendations relate to the existing master plan or the prior master plan, I think is a good one because, for example, the air pollution one, the air emissions inventory is used as the basis for the master plans, but the emissions inventory is very limited. It just tells you how much is being spewed out of the various pieces of ground equipment and aircraft at the airport. It doesn't relate in any way to where that pollution is going. All right, so that's a big issue in a master plan. What's the point of knowing how much pollution is being generated if you don't know where it's going? So I tried in a recent revision to clarify where those holes were and why, so then it basically, then tees up the recommendations that follow to say, we want to try to plug these holes.
yeah, and I will say that in the August 31st version of your paper on the air pollution, I thought that turned out to be a pretty important addition because it's structured how you were going to, to me, it's structured how to fit into the resolution.
Right. Yeah, it made it clearer where the deficiencies were in the prior master plan and probably in the next one if they follow the same, outline.
Right,
And then what our recommendations would be to fill those holes.
right.
So that was a very helpful suggestion, I thought, and I'm going to try to do that now with the other two papers. So
Okay.
if I
So,
can do it this week, I'll send those out to everyone again. But, I don't think it's going to substantively change anything in there. It's just going to add a little bit more, make it a little more pointed why we're making these recommendations
yeah,
and how it relates to the master plan.
I actually like the linkage because it gave all your comments and analysis a good focus on the key
Yeah,
issues.
I did too. That was a good suggestion. So I'm going to keep working on it, but there work's in progress. I'll keep working on it. If the rest of you have comments or think I've missed anything, let me know. We just got comments, thanks to Greg, back on a couple questions related to monitoring that I had in those papers. A couple of parenthetical, questions in there. Now have answers for those. And so I want to go back and make those corrections based on April's input too.
And with respect to the air pollution, the August 31st version of your briefing paper is the latest?
Yes.
Okay. Because there've been two other versions before that, so you only have to focus on the August 31st version.
Right. For the air pollution, the latest one is August 31st, correct?
Okay. Well, again, anybody else have a comment or a question or? No, okay. Thank you all. And we'll do the doodle poll and see when our next meeting is, and hopefully we'll have more briefing papers to discuss. Okay?
Thank you
Yeah,
all.
as a, as a trial balloon, we may just want to send a couple of those to April as a start, the three maybe environmental ones, to see what kind of feedback we get. Instead of sending them all at once, say
Yeah.
they're a 3-year, we would like, so we get some initial feedback on whether she thinks we're on the right track or not. Before we send, before we complete all of them, it might be good to have some intermediate feedback.
I think that's a good idea because I know in my own case, if somebody sent me all 6 at one time, it would get a lesser priority than if I got them one at a time and could fit them in.
Right. Or just the 3 that are environmentally related, just to get her feedback on whether this is the kind of focus for the master plan that she envisions. We're going to get I'm hoping to get some valuable feedback on the early ones, and that'll help guide the rest of them as well. So maybe if I can get some comments back on these 3, I can finalize them, send them to Greg, and he can send them on to April.
Or even if we can just get comments on your latest air pollution one and send that on and just
Fine.
a test case to see how
Yeah.
it works.
Okay, that'd be great too.
Because otherwise, we're going to be using up her time. Better to let her fit it in around her other duties.
Exactly.
Everybody on board for that?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So any other comments?
I'll create the dual poll, but the only thing I ask is that please guys just don't wait for a week and a half or 2 weeks to do it.
How much time is there to do it? A week?
I have no idea because it's a free
Oh.
version, but eventually it does lock out.
Yeah.
But if I'm just gonna be very blunt and honest, I really don't want to have to send out 3 reminders to do it.
Sorry.
Okay. Honesty appreciated. We'll respond right away.
Well, only those mostly benefit you guys, because I know again with 14 people and you guys are all volunteer different things. The quicker you just have clarity, the better, quicker you can lock it down. Also for your guys' benefit too.
All right.
Yep,
Good. That's excellent advice.
that's great. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you,
All
everybody.
right,
Good night.
thank you.
Everybody.